They handed me divorce papers in a red glitter envelope like it was a damn birthday card. I was halfway through a bite of steak when Margaret, my mother-in-law, slid it across the table with both hands, smiling like she just handed me a winning lottery ticket. "From all of us," she said, loud enough for the whole damn restaurant to hear. "My name's Danny. I'm 39 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina." The moment she said it, I knew what was happening. Julia, my wife, was already holding up her phone, recording the whole thing like she was filming a surprise proposal. Her brother Bryce leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, wearing that smug tech bro grin I'd gotten used to hating. "Quick note, before we get too deep, tell us where you're watching from today." I looked down at the envelope. It had balloons and gold letters printed across the front. "Happy birthday, Danny!" These people had gone out and bought a birthday-themed envelope just to stuff it with legal papers. Margaret leaned in a little. "We just figured it was time," she said. Clean, mature, amicable, no hard feelings. She tapped the envelope with her polished fingernail, like I was supposed to thank her. Julia kept recording. I could see the glow of the screen in her wine glass. "Okay," I said. I opened the envelope, pulled out the documents, and flipped to the last page. My name was printed in bold, Daniel Allen Crosby. The ink was still fresh. Bryce looked confused, maybe even a little disappointed I wasn't throwing a fit. He leaned over to Julia and whispered something, but I didn't care enough to listen. I signed. I didn't even bother reading the rest of the paperwork. I already knew what it said. I'd been preparing for this for weeks. I slid the papers back across the table, folded the glitter envelope in half, and stuffed it in Julia's overpriced clutch. "Thanks," I said. "Hope the video turns out great." Then I stood up, pushed in my chair, and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. I could feel them staring holes through my back. I didn't give them the meltdown they wanted. No begging, no tears, just done. Outside, the night air hit me like a reset button. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and scrolled past Julia's name without a second thought. They thought they ambushed me. But I was already 5 moves ahead. They had no clue what I'd been building. 3 days earlier, I pulled into the driveway around 1 in the afternoon. I was supposed to be at the warehouse all day, but one of the military contracts we'd been chasing got delayed. So I figured I'd use the extra hours to fix the back gate Julia kept complaining about. As soon as I opened the front door, I knew something was off. The house was too quiet for a weekday afternoon. No laundry running, no Food Network blaring from the kitchen. Just this weird, tight silence like the place was holding its breath. Then I heard it. Paper shuffling, slow and careful, like someone didn't want to be heard. I walked down the hall, turned into the dining room, and stopped cold. Margaret was sitting at my table, hunched over a stack of documents spread out like some kind of office crime scene. A thick red pen was in her hand, circling, underlining, crossing things out like she was grading a high school essay. She didn't hear me at first. Her face was serious, almost surgical, eyes scanning a line of legalese so fast it was like she already knew what it said. When I finally stepped into the room, she jumped so hard the pen flew out of her hand and landed on the floor. "Oh," she gasped, grabbing at the papers like I'd caught her naked. "What are you working on?" I asked, already knowing damn well this wasn't Sudoku. She did this thing where she tried to laugh, but it came out tight and phony. "Oh, just estate stuff. You know, boring, boring, boring." She waved her hand like it was no big deal, but I could see her trying to slide one of the packets under her purse. That's when Julia came down the stairs fast, too fast, like she'd been listening from upstairs. She was wearing leggings and one of my old sweatshirts, hair up in a messy bun, trying to look casual. "Hey," she said quickly, eyes darting from me to her mom. "Didn't know you were coming home this early." "I didn't either," I said, watching the way her hand immediately landed on her mother's shoulder. A quiet signal, like stop talking. They both stood there, waiting for me to say something else. "What's all that?" I asked, nodding toward the papers. Julia smiled like I was asking about coupons. "It's just some estate paperwork for my uncle's stuff. Mom's helping me sort it. Must be serious business if it needs red pen edits." Margaret chuckled awkwardly, then bent down to grab the pen from the floor. Her hand shook as she picked it up. "I like to keep things tidy," she said, avoiding my eyes. There was a silence that stretched just a little too long. "Anyway," Julia said, trying to redirect, You want lunch or something? I looked down at the paper just barely poking out from under her mom's purse. Legal header, Civil Court of Mecklenburg County. My name wasn't visible, but I didn't need to see it. I'd been feeling the shift for weeks, Julia growing colder, more distant. Margaret showing up more and more often, like she lived there. Bryce's little passive digs getting sharper. Now this? They weren't hiding anything well. They weren't even trying. Nah, I said, stepping back toward the door. Just came to grab a tool, back gate sticking. I could feel Julia watching me hard, like she was trying to gauge if I'd taken the bait. I didn't give her anything, just walked past her like it was any other Tuesday. When I stepped into the garage, I didn't go for the tool bench. I stood there for a good 2 minutes, heart pounding, mind clicking. They were planning something. That much was obvious. Divorce? Probably. Something more? Could be. Either way, they thought I was stupid enough not to notice. I picked up a wrench and smacked it against my palm. All right, let's play. I wasn't going to blow up right then. That's what they wanted, some big freak out they could twist later. Nah, I'd play dumb. Let them think they were smarter than me. If they wanted to plot behind my back, I'd give them the time and space to do it, just long enough to build my own play right under their noses. And when the moment came, I'd let them walk straight into it. I tightened my grip on that wrench and just stood there in the garage, thinking about all the little ways they'd been chipping at me for years. Margaret started the second we got married. I'll never forget the first time we hosted Thanksgiving. I was slicing turkey, proud as hell of the spread Julia and I had pulled off, when Margaret leaned in and said, "I hope you're not too tired for this, Danny. Small business owners never get real time off, right?" She smiled like it was a joke, but the way she looked at me, like I was some overworked janitor, not a company owner, it stuck with me, and she never let up after that. "Must be nice to be your own boss," she'd say, every time I missed a family event to meet with a supplier or chase a contract. "Just move things around, huh? So flexible." That word, flexible, always came out like an insult. Then there was Bryce. Bryce worked for some Fortune 500 firm in Atlanta. Product management or client solutions or whatever the hell empty suit title they gave him. He showed up to every holiday in a Tesla rental, called me hustler, and loved reminding me I wasn't on his level. "You still dealing with trucks and boxes, Danny?" he'd say across the dinner table. "Man, you're living the American dream. Grind culture, baby." One Christmas, I made the mistake of mentioning a new warehouse lease I'd just signed. Bryce cut me off mid-sentence. "Let me guess, you still doing manual inventory on spreadsheets?" He laughed, looking around the table. "Dude, there are apps for that now." Everyone laughed, including Julia. She used to defend me. In the early years, she'd nudge me under the table or roll her eyes at Bryce. But over time, that changed, subtly, slowly. She stopped wearing the shirts with my company logo. Said the color wasn't flattering. She stopped asking how my day went, stopped coming to client dinners. Eventually, she just started looking through me, like I wasn't interesting enough to even argue with. At first, I told myself it was stress. We were both working a lot. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe she was just drifting. But every time we had dinner with her family, it became crystal clear. I wasn't drifting. I was sinking. They'd set the tone, and she followed. They all treated me like the backup plan, like she married a stepping stone and was just biding her time. Once, at her cousin's baby shower, Margaret joked to one of her church friends, "Julia had to be the one to marry for love, bless her heart." Then she glanced at me like I wasn't standing right there, like love was code for settling. The worst part? I let it slide. I'd laugh it off, grit my teeth, remind myself that I didn't need their approval. But over time, those cuts stack up. By the time Julia stopped holding my hand in public, I didn't even flinch. By the time she started correcting me in front of guests about little things like revenue numbers or how many employees I had, I'd already learned to shut up and swallow it. And the crazy thing, I was making real money. I had 36 drivers running 5 states, 2 distribution hubs, government contracts. My name was on a growing list of preferred vendors. I wasn't running some side hustle from a garage. I was running a machine. But to them, I was still the guy with a van and a clipboard. Still Danny the delivery man. And Julia let them keep thinking that. Hell, she liked that they thought that. It gave her leverage. I started realizing just how deep their contempt ran. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. It was those small, daily humiliations. The jabs they passed off as jokes. The corrections masked as helpful. The silences when I talked about work, followed by over-the-top praise when Bryce mentioned a promotion. It was death by 1,000 cuts. And I bled quietly for years, thinking love meant taking it. But standing in that garage, holding that wrench, I felt something shift. I'd bled enough. Later that night, I was heading down the hall to grab my charger from the living room when I heard her voice. Julia. She was in our bedroom with the door halfway closed. I wouldn't have stopped, except something in her tone made me freeze. I've heard her mad. I've heard her fake nice. This was different. Cold, sharp, businesslike. No, I'm not backing out now, she was saying. I just want it to be clean and simple. After his birthday, I stopped walking. She was pacing. I could see her reflection in the mirror from where I stood. Phone to her ear, arms crossed tight. Her voice dropped a little. Because it's strategic, Mom. He won't see it coming if we wait. And if we time it right, I can move out that week, start the new job the week after. New job? She kept going. Bryce said the offer's still good. I just need to send him my final availability. HR is already prepping the paperwork. There it was, the real plan. I stood there, heart pounding, hands loose at my sides. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I'm not dragging this out, she said. I've put in too many years already. It's time I get what I deserve. There was a pause. Then Julia laughed, short, bitter. Oh, please. Don't act like he built some empire. It's a glorified courier service. He got lucky during COVID, that's all. Supply chain panic made idiots rich. Another pause. No, he doesn't suspect a thing. He still acts like everything's fine. Probably thinks I'm gonna bake him a damn birthday cake. Her voice got quieter. I had to lean forward. I just want my half and a clean break. That's not unreasonable. I supported him for years, even when I didn't believe in it. She walked past the mirror again, running her hand through her hair. And if he tries to pull any of that it's protected crap, Bryce already has a legal team lined up. They'll crack whatever shell game he's playing. I'm not walking away empty-handed, Mom. I put in too much time. I stepped back, quiet as I could. Every muscle in my legs felt tight like they'd snap. I went to the guest room, closed the door behind me, and sat on the edge of the bed. Lights off, phone in my hand, screen dark. She wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to gut me on the way out. And the way she said it. Like it was already done. Like she'd already practiced the lines. Like she'd made peace with screwing me over. I didn't feel sad. I didn't even feel angry yet. I felt clear. She was going to serve me papers after my birthday and walk straight into a job her brother lined up. She'd smile through it, pretend it was mature and mutual, spin the story her way. And if I wasn't careful, she'd walk away with half of everything I built, just so she could hand it to the same people who looked down on me from day one. I sat there all night, in the dark, thinking about every dinner, every insult, every silent look that suddenly made sense. Every little piece of this long game she thought she was playing. She thought I was a soft target, but she forgot one thing. You don't pull a knife on a man who's been sharpening his own in silence. By the time the sun came up, I'd already made peace with what I had to do. Julia thought I was just some fool who ran delivery trucks and paid himself under the table. A guy with a glorified courier service. That's what she called it. Let me walk you through what she didn't know. I started the business 11 years ago with one van and a leased storage unit outside Kannapolis. I was 28, broke, and done working warehouse night shifts. I slept in the back of the van more nights than I want to admit, just to hit early pickups and cut out drive time. First few years, it was pure grit. Pickups, drop-offs, loading pallets by hand, rain, snow, heat. Didn't matter. I reinvested everything. While Julia's friends were buying new kitchens, I was buying used forklifts at auction. Then COVID hit, and while half the country shut down, my phones exploded. People needed supplies, moved, fast, secure, no excuses. That's when I scaled up. I bought out 2 smaller competitors in Raleigh and Columbia. pulled every dollar I had, and took out loans that made my stomach twist. I gambled everything we owned: house, cars, credit, on expansion. But it worked. I landed a contract with FEMA, then 3 more with the DoD for non-combat logistical support. Those came with serious vetting: clearances, insurance, bonding. I had to bring in consultants and attorneys just to handle the paperwork. It almost broke me, but it didn't. By year 7, I had 36 trucks, a staff of 60, and a rotating contract volume that cleared 7 figures monthly. I kept quiet about the numbers. I always played it small. Drove a Ford, wore beat-up boots, stayed off social media. Let Julia's family laugh at my little hustle. I didn't need to prove anything. What they really didn't know was how I protected it. My sister, Carly, is an estate lawyer up in Richmond. Sharp as hell. Trust and asset management is her bread and butter. A few years back, when Bryce started sniffing around our finances at Thanksgiving, I called Carly that same week. We moved everything into a trust with Carly listed as managing trustee. The business, the warehouses, the house, even the damn box truck I bought last year. Carly technically owned it all on paper. Me? I was just the operating manager drawing a W-2. Julia didn't even know Carly handled our taxes. The business was now under an umbrella LLC that fed into a series of holding companies spread across 5 states, each one legally separated from me, with contracts structured to keep the assets shielded. We weren't just protected, we were judgment-proof. And the cherry on top, I restructured my personal income to minimum salary, plus quarterly bonuses, discretionary, which meant, in a divorce court, Julia wouldn't be walking away with half of anything. She could take me to court, drag it out for years, spend tens of thousands on legal teams, and still walk away with nothing but debt and bitterness. They mocked me while I was quietly turning my company into a $70 million machine, and they never saw it coming, because to them, I was the guy who wore Walmart jeans to Sunday dinner, the guy who missed baby showers and brunches because I was out bidding on warehouse space, the guy who didn't understand corporate structure, according to Bryce. I let them believe it. I kept my mouth shut, nodded along, smiled while they talked down to me, because every insult just made it easier to stay focused, made it easier to grind without explaining myself. But now, they were trying to cash out on something they never helped build. Julia never lifted a damn finger. She showed zero interest, never asked about margins, staffing, logistics, nothing. And now she wanted her half? Nah. They thought they were walking into a bank heist with a flashlight and a backpack, not realizing the vault's already been emptied and locked tight by a team of lawyers who don't even blink when you say marital assets. She wanted to take me out. She was going to find out what happens when the guy you think is weak turns out to be the only one in the room who already planned the ending. The morning after I made up my mind, I called Rebecca. Rebecca Delgado's the kind of attorney you want when your world's on fire and you're the only one holding a gas can. No smiles, no small talk, no hand-holding, just results. I'd met her 2 years earlier through one of my military clients. She'd handled 3 contract disputes and buried every single one of them. I told her I needed a full lockdown. Quiet, fast, irreversible. We met in her office that same afternoon. Downtown Charlotte, top floor, corner view. She didn't even blink when I laid it out. Okay, she said, flipping through my current structure like it was a fast food menu. Here's what we do. We turn the faucet off. She started with the house. We moved the title from our joint ownership into the trust. No need for Julia's consent, since Carly already held trustee powers. That meant if Julia tried to claim equity, she'd be met with a wall of paperwork signed and sealed months ago. Next, the bank accounts. We opened a new set under a holding company I'd already registered in Delaware. My direct deposits would route through there, then trickle into a personal checking account under my name only. Limited visibility, low balance, no credit cards tied to it. Then we tackled the credit lines. Every shared card, every joint account, every auto pay she had on file, I shut it all down. Rebecca handed me a list. By tomorrow she'll get declined at Target, she said. She won't see it coming. Then came the will. We tore up the old one and drafted a new version, fast and brutal. I left Julia exactly $1. Everything else, cash, property, the business, life insurance, went straight to my niece, Carly's daughter. Full trustee control, airtight. No contest clause, Rebecca said, typing without looking up. If she tries to challenge it in probate, she gets nothing, not even the dollar. I nodded. Do it. We finished it all in 4 hours. By the time I walked out, I felt lighter. But the hard part was keeping it quiet. I went home that night and kissed Julia on the cheek like nothing had changed. Ate dinner, watched an episode of that true crime series she liked. Listened to her fake laugh at her phone while texting her mom. Every move I made had to look routine. She couldn't suspect I'd already cut the wires before the bomb even ticked. The next day, I bought flowers. 2 days after that, I made reservations for her birthday dinner in October, smiled when she asked me to take the trash out, kept the rhythm exactly how she liked it. She probably thought she was keeping me docile. She probably thought she still had time to position her shot. Meanwhile, I was turning the walls to steel around her. Every document, every signature, every login, locked. Every lifeline she thought she'd pull, gone. It wasn't about revenge, it was about defense. I'd built something that could survive storms, audits, recessions, and now I was making sure it would survive her. Let her bring her brother's lawyers. Let her drag her smug little case into court. All she'd find is a long paper trail that ends with one simple truth. She had nothing to take. The shift in Julia's behavior came fast and loud. 2 days before my birthday, she was suddenly all smiles and soft touches. Kiss on the cheek before I left for work. Favorite dinner on the stove when I got home. She even brought me a 6-pack of that overpriced IPA I liked. Oh, just felt like spoiling you, she said, pressing against me in the kitchen like it was 2017 again. I played along. She laughed more, joked more, touched my arm every time she said something cute. And every single time she left the room, I heard her whispering into the phone. Margaret. The walls in our house weren't thick. They never figured that out. I just want it to feel natural, Julia said one afternoon from the bedroom. Like, not too staged. He's so calm. I want to catch him off guard. Another pause. Everyone will be there, right? Bryce, you, Uncle Don. Yeah, all of you. That way he won't make a scene. He'll feel boxed in. She laughed quietly. No, he won't cry. I just want to catch his face, you know? She was planning a public takedown with a dinner reservation and an iPhone. Later that night, I asked, so, who's all coming on Friday? Just curious. She didn't blink. Oh, just the usuals. Family only. Thought it'd be nice to keep it small this year. I nodded and smiled. Sounds perfect. I kept my tone flat steady. Meanwhile, I'd already confirmed the guest list through the restaurant's reservation system. Julia used my OpenTable account without realizing it synced to my email. 10 guests. Private table in the back corner. It was almost funny how obvious she got once she thought I was clueless. Margaret started texting me again, pretending to be friendly. Bryce sent a sarcastic gif on group chat that Julia accidentally hearted. Everything about them screamed smug. They really thought they had me trapped in a corner. What they didn't know was I'd been backed into corners my whole life and learned how to build exits no one else could see. That last night before the dinner, I lay in bed next to Julia and watched her scroll through her phone like nothing was coming. She had no idea the trap she thought she was setting was already flipped on her. I didn't feel nervous. I felt ready. Let them bring the fake smiles, the glittery envelope, the phone camera. Let them try to serve me humiliation like dessert. I was going to give them a performance they'd never forget. And when it was over, they'd finally see the version of me they'd spent years underestimating, the one who never needed to yell to win. The place Julia picked was a trendy steakhouse just outside South Park. Dim lighting, white tablecloths, $50 ribeyes. Real, we're classy but casual vibes. I walked in right on time. They were already seated. Julia, Margaret, Bryce, Uncle Don, and the rest of the usual crowd. Everyone dressed up like it was a celebration, but the air was stiff. Too many fake smiles. Too much silence between laughs. Julia stood and kissed my cheek. "Happy birthday, babe," she said, like she meant it. Margaret grinned across the table. "We're so glad you made it, Danny." I took my seat at the head of the table. Water glasses clinked, small talk buzzed. The waitress brought bread and asked if we were celebrating anything special. "My husband's birthday," Julia said, loud and sweet. "We're just so proud of him." I nodded. "Thanks. Big year." I watched her tap the side of her phone like she was checking a text, but I knew the camera was already rolling, front-facing, low-angle, discreet. She wanted my reaction on record. Then Margaret reached into her oversized leather purse and pulled out the envelope. Red, glittery, ridiculous. She slid it across the table like she was handing me a birthday card. "From all of us," she said, smiling with her eyes like a cat watching a bird hop into a box trap. I looked at it, then at her, then back down. Slowly peeled it open, legal paper, Mecklenburg County header, petition for divorce. The table went quiet. Even Bryce stopped pretending to scroll through his phone. I pulled the pen from my inside jacket pocket and clicked it once. "Okay," I said, and signed my name without looking twice. Julia blinked. "Wait, what?" I folded the paperwork neatly, tucked it back into the envelope, and slid it across the table. "Thanks. Great dinner, by the way." Then I stood up, fixed my collar, and walked out the front door like I was heading to the valet. No drama, no yelling, no scene. Exactly what Julia said she wanted. Clean and simple. I hit the sidewalk and pulled out my phone. 5 seconds later, I heard the doors open behind me. "Danny, wait!" Julia called out, heels clicking hard against the concrete. Margaret and Bryce followed behind, looking like someone just flipped the table on them. I turned slowly, phone still in hand. "Something wrong?" Julia's face was tight. "Why aren't you, I don't know, angry, upset?" I tapped the screen, then held the phone to my ear. "Rebecca," I said, "go ahead and release the summary." There was a pause. Then I handed a thick manila envelope to Margaret. She frowned and looked down at it like it might bite. "What is this?" "That," I said, "is the full documentation on the Carley Trust, the holding companies, and the new will, along with an official valuation of my business, which, as of this quarter, is worth just over $72 million. Julia's mouth dropped open. Bryce took a step forward. "That's what?" he said, trying to snatch the envelope from Margaret. I didn't flinch. "It's all legal, all locked, all protected. Julia doesn't get a penny." She shook her head. "You're lying. You can't just—" "I can," I cut in. "And I did. Months ago." I turned to Bryce. "And you? Your little legal team would have known that if you'd bothered to look past the website homepage." He went pale. I looked back at Julia. "You mocked me. You recorded me. You wanted to humiliate me in front of your whole family." She looked stunned, like the floor just dropped out from under her. I stepped closer. "You thought I was a dumb truck guy you could drain dry, but you forgot one thing, Jules. You don't go to war with someone who's been preparing for it longer than you've been planning the ambush." Margaret flipped through the papers like she was trying to catch a mistake. "But she's your wife. She's entitled to $1, I said. "Check the will." Line 47. Julia's voice cracked. "This wasn't supposed to— Danny, we can talk about this." "No," I said. "We're done talking." I put my phone back in my pocket, turned toward the street, and started walking. Behind me, I heard Bryce start to raise his voice. Margaret hissed something sharp. Julia called my name once, quiet, desperate, but I didn't stop. They could keep the glitter envelope. I had everything that mattered. I didn't even make it halfway down the block before I heard heels chasing after me. Danny, wait!" Julia's voice cracked like glass behind me. I stopped near a streetlight and turned just in time to see all three of them, Julia, Margaret, and Bryce, storming down the sidewalk like they were trying to catch a flight they'd already missed. Margaret looked pale. Her lipstick was smudged, papers shaking in her hand. Bryce had that twitchy, fake calm look, like he was still trying to spin a narrative that wasn't there. Julia reached me first. "Please, just talk to me." I looked her straight in the eye. "You want to talk now? After you tried to serve me in front of your family like I was some loser you were tossing out?" Tears welled up fast. "I didn't know it would go like this. You thought I'd break down," I said. "You wanted it on video. You were filming it. You wanted me humiliated." She covered her mouth, voice small. "I was scared." "No," I said. "You were arrogant." Margaret stepped up, holding out the folder like I'd changed my mind. We just didn't know. If you had told us, I cut her off. You don't get to lecture me about honesty, Margaret. You've been circling my finances like a vulture for a year. I've seen the edits, the red pen. You thought I was dumb. Bryce finally spoke. All right, man, let's be real. Maybe this just got out of hand. Emotions are high. But look, my firm has people who can... I laughed once. Sharp. Your firm? You mean the one that offered Julia a job off the books through a fake referral with a fabricated salary projection? He stiffened. That's not... I sent your HR team a courtesy email this morning, along with a video of Julia discussing how to time it for maximum leverage. Let's see how long that job offer stands once they realize it's part of a planned financial ambush. Bryce's mouth opened, then closed. Julia dropped to the curb, sitting on the concrete like her legs gave out. Danny, please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can... There's no we anymore, I said. You tried to take everything I built and hand it to the same people who've laughed at me for years. She started crying, real ugly crying, and for the first time in years, I felt absolutely nothing for her. Not love, not hate, just done. You can keep the house for now, I said. Carly will send paperwork next week. Utilities will stay on for 30 days. After that, it's all yours to figure out. I turned toward my truck, keys already in my hand. Wait, Margaret shouted, voice shrill. You're just going to leave? I opened the door and looked back one last time. You tried to bury me, I said, but all you did was set me free. Then I got in and drove off. The second I pulled onto the freeway, it felt like someone cut a rope off my chest. I wasn't mad, I wasn't sad, I wasn't anything. I was clean. They'd wanted to break me down in front of each other, to crush me so they could feel superior one last time. But what they did was give me the thing they feared most, total independence. And now that I had it, I wasn't giving it back. 6 months later, I was drinking black coffee from a chipped mug on the balcony of a 22nd floor penthouse overlooking downtown Charlotte. Place was quiet, clean, mine. I didn't fill it with much, just a leather recliner, a bookshelf, a mattress on the floor, and a view worth more than anything I left behind. Julia still called. Private numbers, blocked IDs, left voicemails like we were one long conversation that never got a proper goodbye. I never answered. I never would. Margaret sent a handwritten letter in May, blue ink, 4 pages long. Told me families make mistakes. Included a photo of her holding Julia's baby blanket like it was supposed to mean something. Trash. I gave away every piece of furniture from the old house. Sold the wedding china to a college kid on the Facebook Marketplace. Donated the dining room set to a halfway house. Burned the photo albums. Didn't even flinch. The only thing I kept was my company and freedom. The business was flying. New contracts every week. Government, commercial, pharmaceutical. All of it growing faster than I could track. I hired 20 new drivers, expanded into Tennessee, and spent 3 weeks in Italy scouting a warehouse hub for NATO logistics. Bryce got fired. Julia never got the job. I don't know where she's working now, and I don't care. I was never the sad, desperate man they painted in their little plan. I was the storm they pretended didn't exist until it hit them square in the face. I wasn't hiding anymore. I didn't need to. People think starting over means doing something new. For me, it meant cutting everything dead off the branch, burning it down, watching the ash settle, and standing in the quiet. Some nights, I just sat in that recliner with a book and a beer and thought about how simple it all became once I stopped trying to be what they wanted. They underestimated me, every one of them, and now they're just names in a folder I'll never open again.